Welcome to the HIV podcast. Each week we focus on a person, historical event or pop culture moment linked to HIV and explore the story of what actually happened. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jess, and between us we've been working in the field of HIV for 40 years. Our aim is to get as many people as possible HIV educated.
Croeso i'r podlediad HIV.
Bless you. What? Tell me, Sarah. What are we speaking?
Welsh, mate. Welsh.
Are you still learning Welsh?
I think anyone who's Welsh who just heard that would argue that I'm not really learning it at all.
No, I think they'd be pleased because there's not tons and tons of people that speak Welsh anymore, are there?
No, and I don't think they'd say HIV because, you know, they've got their own alphabet, but I haven't learned that yet.
Are you genuinely still learning it? Sarah's been learning Welsh for a while on Duolingo.
Yeah, it's going to be a while longer before I can have a proficient conversation.
But I'm actually quite impressed, though, that you said, I'm assuming you did say welcome to the HV podcast and not Jeff is terrible. And then, you know.
Well, yeah, no, you'll never know.
Is that, well, I won't, to be honest, because I won't be bothered to look it up. But thank you for welcoming us. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm giddy as a kipper, Sarah.
Right,
Giddy.
we've been through this before. It's not an expression. You can't, well, you can use it, but get it into everyone's vocabulary.
Do people not know what that means?
Why are kippers giddy?
I don't know. I just am, Sarah. Look, I don't know. Why are you a smarty pants?
I am a smarty pants.
You know what I mean? These are quite like British sayings, aren't they? Like things like that.
Okay, right, okay. I get what you're saying now.
I don't know
why are you giddy?
Because I'm really excited about our guest today. Yeah. So they were named an LGBT future leader. Oh, wait, no. Let me do that again. They were named They were named in the list of future leaders for their how do I say this? It's called
I swear to God, if you edit all of this out, I will be livid.
Anyway, we have an LGBT hero who is also named a future leader in terms of LGBT heroes. And we're going to be talking a bit later in this episode to Topher Taylor, who may email me after hearing me try to explain this and be like, can you just not? Should we just not work together again? That was terrible.
God, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Do you want to go home?
I am.
It's over. Oh, I always forget. You know, me too. You know what I mean, though. But yes, I'm very excited. I don't really have much news, to be honest, because, you know, obviously we're going to chat with Topher, and I just think we just get going with that.
Do we want to address who that is?
Oh, yeah. Before we get into it, before we bring Topher in, Sarah, you tell them.
We'll just say a big shout out to Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, Sarah's sat in one of her son's rooms. I'm assuming it's one of your son's rooms and it's just not another area of your bedroom where you've got pictures of Jamie Vardy up.
It's a little shrine to him.
Yeah, so she's had to descend into one of their bedrooms. So we've got this sort of shouty face of Jamie Vardy looking at us. I don't know what he's doing, but he's having a good old yell, isn't he?
He is. He's freely expressing himself.
Yeah.
Imagine if I said to you now, because we are talking to Topher about sexual liberation. I wonder, what do you do if I went, Jess, what gets me going?
I quite like that. Maybe we should share more, Sarah. We've tried it before. We've talked about getting the blue light out and how sexy that makes it, you know, mopping ourselves down. We've talked about that in previous episodes. Maybe I actually think our guest this week would want us to be more sexually open.
Yes. Well, those are my rules. There's no Jamie Vardy pictures. It's not happening.
It's not happening. I'm going to tag Jamie Vardy in this. Right. Shall we get Topher in?
Yes. Okay, so today we are speaking to someone that I have become a little bit obsessed with. I mean, it almost borders on stalking, if I'm honest. That's going to put you off working with us ever again. We are talking to Topher Taylor.
Hi, thank you for having me. I feel very excited to have this chat. I really do, especially on the back of HIV testing week. Absolutely.
And we note your hoodie, lovely. We were talking about hoodies, weren't we, Jess, in our testing week?
Yes, but Sarah, you need to remember that we're on a podcast, so let's explain what Topher's hoodie says. So Topher is wearing a lovely eye test hoodie. So obviously we will put pictures out on Instagram and things like that and videos on TikTok, but just to let people know that are listening, it's a lovely eye test hoodie.
Okay, Topher, don't be put off that I stalk you. It's all good.
You are welcome to, please. Everyone that stalks me is so boring. At least it's someone interesting.
So first of all, I mean, you are a legend. There's no other kind of description that I can come up with for you. Tell us about the work that you do.
Basically, everything I do surrounds like sex and intimacy and sex education. So I came in, I don't have a degree or anything like that. I came into the industry via retail. So I started working in sex shops when I was 18. And one of the reasons I was kind of led to it is just because I had really shit sex education. I knew nothing, especially like being queer. And I was in the Roman Catholic school and we didn't talk about gay sex. And so I was really fixated on sex. So I went into adult retail just to kind of really for me just to learn. It was more of like a mask for me to put on. Like I'm here because I want to work, and really it's because I had no idea how to like have sex and stuff, like anal and safe anal and making smart decisions. So I started with that. I just kind of branched into sex education. I like contribute to a lot of shows and podcasts. Gosh, I do so many different things. If I'm honest, I'm just a bit of an old slag.
That's going to be the strapline for the episode, Topher. Yeah. Just a bit of an old slag.
I mean, I have to be honest, and it's just I really love sex. I like the psychology of sex. I like the physical act. I like the way it's like everyone's Achilles heel in a way, and I think that's a really interesting way to get to know people. And I'm like big on communication, so for me, it satisfies me physically and psychologically. So it's just something I kind of worked really hard to build a job out of.
I would never think for getting sex education to go and work in a sex shop, but what a clever way of getting so much education, I bet.
Yeah, and it was so good because this was back, like I started working in sex shops in like 2007, 2008. So Soho was still kind of sketchy. It hadn't got quite trendy again yet. So I was working with a lot of sex workers and like escorts and strippers and like local, like different working girls of all different kind of backgrounds. And I learned so much from them because a lot of my education came from customers and also these working girls coming into the shop. And I'm like, why are they buying that? And then you'd have to try it because you're the sales assistant. You want to seem like you know what you're talking about. And really, I'm like, it's going like, so yeah, it was just, it was like, the best way to learn it was like on the ground, again, putting your ear to the ground. And
so we should do this, Jess. Let's go volunteer in a sex shop.
You know what? I have said this. I was talking at Rostercon last year, and I was like, the best thing I recommend to anyone in this industry, because when you're always doing the admin side and the writing side, and you're never like, you lose a lot of that like face to face. And I'm a very I'm a communicator, so I like people in front of me. So like I'm like go into a shift in the sex shop because it totally revitalizes your. And if you're working in sex ed, I mean, if you're thinking of it even from like a data point of view, like you want to know what people are asking, right? Because I mean, that's the only way you're going to be good at your job, because there's no point pushing out information that people don't care about. It has to be relevant. Yeah.
That's genius, to be honest.
It wasn't as calculated as that, but it just turns out that it was quite lucky that I started that way. But, so a lot of my writing now comes from the place of all those questions people used to ask me behind the till, because I kind of I'm aware of what people are most curious about, what people are most scared of, what people are most embarrassed of. And
obviously this is the HIV podcast, and as you know, Sarah and I work in an HIV charity, and we have done for a really long time, and that's where a lot of our sort of conversations come from, are the things that we hear at our drop-in from our positive service users. So you're so right, in that same way you have that insider knowledge,
and it helps you like be more like empathetic, and also like because I feel like with a lot of sex education that I see, a lot of it's very corny and a lot of it's like product driven, and like I like sex toys, obviously I develop them for work, like it's part of my job. But I'm much more interested in like solving the problems behind people. Like, let's say someone's got a problem, or like they can't come, or condoms keep breaking with them, or condoms keep slipping off, and all this stuff. And you only learn from really knowing what the result to that, what the solution to that is, which comes from product knowledge, which comes from people coming to you with the problems. So it's like a really productive circle.
It really is. It's a good project model. I like this. So you're changing the narrative around sexual pleasure. You're helping people lose, I don't want to say Britishness, it's coyness, because I think as a nation...
I would say it's very British, yeah, because I feel like when you deal with American customers, you do notice a little bit of a different, like, it's very British to not want to address those problems, because our, like in England, like even like we grew up on like Carry On and you can't talk about that because that's saucy, and like, but so I kind of come at it more like, listen, I'm a bit more vulgar with it, so maybe I'm a bit like, maybe this hurts your bumhole, try this, kind of,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, so I try to keep that Britishness in a little bit of the vulgarity and the childishness,
yeah.
and but then you just drop the solution right on them before they can ask you.
So you're really just getting to the crux of the matter, right? You're just like,
Yeah, so much sex ed is so personally, I think it's very patronizing. I know how people my age will look at it and be like, why am I being spoken to like I'm a child? You know, some people just like, listen, this really, my dick doesn't work, or I made this mistake. Even like when it kind of like jumping down the line to like learning about HIV medication and PEP, which was really my first window in. It came from working in the sex shops and getting to know sex workers, because I wouldn't have known what PEP was. So like I said, all my sex education knowledge came from that face-to-face retail environment. And that includes HIV education and like preventative measures and stuff, and like really smart sex education, like protection. And
was HIV talked about much in the sex shop?
Not really. It was more the people there's some amazing people that go around, and I have so much respect for them. The people that represent the charities and the organizations, and they hand out the flyers, and they're constantly on the ground, like working with the sex workers, making sure these people are getting checked and doing the needle exchange and stuff like that. And it was really from them. And it was from those like independent workers. And it was, I always remember a few years into my career, I moved into a queer retail store called Clone Zone. And then we learned about PEP, which was, post-exposure. And I was like, what the hell is that? And they're like, oh, if you take this after exposure, you don't get HIV. And my mind was like blown. I'm like, why doesn't everyone on the planet know about this medicine? Because I think I learned about it in 2009. 2010, and maybe it was 2011 anyway, a while ago. And I was like, why doesn't everyone on the planet know about this? Because
that
to me,
is
I was
just
like,
how we feel. Yeah.
What do you mean there's this medication that can stop HIV? Like at that point, one of the most provocative topics, HIV, because it was still so scary, I guess.
So true though, isn't it? I think even now, the word hasn't got out there enough about PrEP. Or PEP. Right. When we test people and you ask them, they'll just look at you blankly and you're like, still in this day and age, we just haven't got those messages across.
Yeah, I think so much of it is the fear. People don't want to be associated with that topic. I think that's why I respect you both so much, because I know just from doing a few little videos on my side, the amount of people, like even if I'll be on a dating app or something, if someone would be like, oh, someone would be quite ignorant. Maybe not needing to be like nasty. They're like, oh, have you got AIDS? I'm like, no, how can you watch a video where I'm talking about preventative measures and your brain equates that to I've got AIDS? I'm talking about the medication I take that would prevent me from getting HIV, which then, do you know what I mean? So I feel like I really respect you both, because I know what it's like to put yourself out there with this topic, because it does come with a lot of stigma. People are like, why are you talking about that? Why is this on social media? Like there's kids on social media and all this stuff. And the kids need to know about it. That's the whole point.
Well, that's it. And we wanted to make it sort of slightly less shocking, because every time we hear about HIV, it's, we bang about it all the time, but, we're not big fans of the media and their headlines, and this is where we hear about it. And it just needs, like you're saying, it needs to be on much more palatable platforms and in a much more normalized way, in which we're having these conversations. As Sarah said, we really love what you do and how you talk about sex. And you really are a bit of a revolutionary in what you're doing, in how you're like, yeah, just talk to me. If you've got a problem with this, problem with that, we'll work it out. It is normalizing sex, and that's what we need to do, isn't it?
This is, I wish people saw more of what I do, because this sounds very corny, and I always say this, but it's very much an iceberg, because I deal so much with discretion. So like 99.5% of my work, you'll never see it, because it's private interactions, it's product development, it's all behind non-disclosure agreements and all this stuff. And that includes my sex life and filming. Like, so I do like porn content. And so much of that is behind NDAs as well. So like, I wish people understood all of the work that I do, because I think it looks very like colorful and fun on top, but like really it's a lot of, you can't just go out there and work in this, like with intimacy and encouraging the use of medication without being educated and not knowing what you're doing and not following protocol. And I wish people saw more of what I did, but maybe one day when people are more liberal.
Oh gosh, wouldn't that be amazing? I think all of us are striving for that day, aren't we?
Yeah, when all social media are trying to stop it. I mean, I've just given up on trying to get organic reach at the minute. So I just kind of stick to my bread and butter, my 10 to 6 work.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very, no, we're the same, aren't we, Jess?
Yeah.
It's a challenge, I think, I mean, that's, a lot of that is around kind of stigma, isn't it? And especially, I think, we're all on the same page again, that there is so much negativity at the moment, government driven, media driven, associated with the LGBT community and associated with HIV. I mean, it feels like we're going back to the 80s. Topher, you won't remember the 80s, but trust me, horrific. How do you keep motivated against that backdrop? How do you keep striving to do what you do?
I think honestly, it's just more about, with me, it's always empathy. Like, because I know what it's like not to have that knowledge. And I know what it's like to experience really like both a really aggressive homophobia and really insidious homophobia. I've seen both. So I always feel like just keep doing it, because there's going to be someone out there who listens to this and it's going to help, or they're going to read it. And it does, like the amount of people I know, especially like a lot of men I know who publicly identify as straight, and I'm the reason they're on PrEP. I'm the reason they're getting tested. And I know that. And that's, I think because I'm genuinely interested in my industry, it always keeps me motivated. Because I'm not here for I know I dress up and always do the funnies. I'm not here for that side. I'm really here for the feedback and for the knowledge. And I find sex fascinating. So I think that's what motivates me.
Yeah.
And like I said, I am just a bit of an old tart. It's true. So it's like an organic interest and also a work interest.
We're just in awe of what you do, to be honest. We'd love to get more sex educated, wouldn't you, Sarah?
Bit late in the day for me, Jess, after 2 kids.
No, I mean to
never too late.
Exactly. I mean, so that we could be having even more conversations with our service users, because sex, we obviously come at sex from a very protection point of view. But I think there's also the pleasure element, and that's really what you're a lot about, isn't it, Topher? Enjoying sex, and we shouldn't be ashamed to enjoy it. And I feel like for so long there is that narrative of, it's a bit shameful to feel that way.
Yeah. I feel like as well, people really find it hard to separate. You can go into something very educated and still have complete fun and be chaotic and hedonism or whatever, it's fine. That's why when you talk about things so how do we make smart educated decisions? We do it by, right, I'm going to go out on Friday and I'm probably going to be a bit of an old whore or whatever however you refer to yourself when you're in that chaotic section, which I know a lot of queer people are. We have these allocated weekends or evenings where I'm going to have a crazy night tonight. So you're right, what am I going to do? Number one, am I on PrEP? Yeah, I'm going to take my PrEP. Or am I HIV positive? Cool. Have I taken my pill? Is my dose right? And then am I using condoms? Am I using the right lube? All these little things. So that way, once you've got all that stuff covered, go and have fun. To get the boring, when I say it's boring, it's not, it's fascinating, but I guess for most people it is boring. And get that stuff done, then you can go out and have fun.
It's almost like giving yourself permission, isn't it?
Yeah,
just
I feel
enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I think British people especially need that. You need to grant yourself permission to have pleasure, because we're so I'm raised in London, but I'm Irish. So I think my family we have a bit more of a warm, more of a warm, jokey relationship with sex because of my Irish family. But I've got a British family who are very still freaked out about what I do for a living. So I feel like if you get the boring stuff out of the way, it is granting yourself permission, because it's almost justifying that behavior, which I think a lot of people need. Yeah,
they do. And then it removes all the embarrassment or the feelings of being ashamed.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people have when it comes to sexual pleasure, if they have fetishes, for example, because it's ingrained in all of us that's not the right way to be. You should keep that behind closed doors and you should never talk about it.
But then you turn on Channel 4 at 10 p.m. and what are the most viewed TV shows? It's sexual pleasure, it's fetish. It's because people are fascinated.
Yeah.
But then they need the TV channels and mainstream media to give them permission. But then they'll open a newspaper the next day and laugh at it. So then it will just get stifled again. So it's a full-time job trying to be a liberated open, because you're constantly being reminded that you're you should be ashamed. And I think especially for queer people, especially gay men, so many people still live in that AIDS crisis mindset. So I get it all the time. I mean, other than homophobic comments, I think the other negative comment I'd always get is, "Oh, you're going to get AIDS," and I'm like, okay. I mean, I won't, because I take PrEP. And if you'd watched my other videos, you'd know about that. But I mean, there's so much stigma around sexually liberated queer guys.
That preparation beforehand is that could help so many people. You're blowing my mind. I'm literally here like, I can think of so many people that use our service that I'm going to share that with. Because like you're saying, I don't want people to go out and feel bad about going out and having a chaotic weekend or evening or whatever they're doing. But like you're saying, if you're prepared, it's, yeah, I think that's a bit of a game changer, if I'm honest. Sort of in it, real psychologically, it removes that guilt and that shame.
Yeah.
And like you're both saying, it gives you permission to let go, enjoy yourself, because you know you're being safe. Like,
yeah. I feel like we're always battling this stoicness, like, oh, well, it's wrong to want to go out and like have a gangbang, or it's wrong to go out and have a one night stand. Well, no, it's not, because you physically, emotionally, psychologically want to do it? Yeah, you do. And that's fine. So let's just make sure you're covering the bases that could, cut out risk. Like, let's think about it from a risk prevention point of view. So, right, I want to go out and be a whore this weekend. Cool. Have I taken my PrEP? Or like, if I'm positive already, have I taken my meds? Am I using the right condoms? Am I using the right lube to go with the right condoms? And then boom. Then you're reducing your stress down, and you can go and have fun. Some dickhead's always going to have something to say. And at some point, as a sexual person, you've got to learn to just try and let it go. Especially in England and America, they're always going to have a problem with sexually liberal people. Because like I said, we're still living in that post-AIDS crisis. I mean, the AIDS crisis is still out there, obviously, but I mean, Western world, people think post like 70s, 80s, 90s. They're like, oh no, you can't be sexually active because that's risky and you're going to get disease and you're going to be riddled. And it's like, well, I mean, I test, I take my pills, I do my thing.
You saying there's always going to be some dickhead that has something to say is so true. We're currently running, we do HIV testing, but we're running a specific pilot for some certain local authorities currently. And we've had so many like anti-vaxxer comments saying, oh my God, like it's, you need to, if you've had the jab, this is why. And I've boosted the posts on Facebook, obviously. I want them to reach certain areas. I want them to
That is when you get the worst comments.
Oh, it's honestly, Toba, it's the worst. Every day
Facebook
it's like a battle.
They think you're Bill Gates and Dolly Parton trying to get everyone's data.
Yeah, honestly, we've had that. We have had someone literally writing underneath being like, they're stealing our DNA. And it's just like,
Please.
No.
Please, I've shared my DNA with half of the men in London. It's out there already. Trust
Good
me.
work, Topher.
Yeah, trust me. Anyone that wants my DNA just needs to come to South London.
Oh, now, I don't know if either of you, probably not, because you've both got lives, saw a feature on this morning, daytime TV show, a couple of weeks ago in the run-up to Valentine's Day. They did a feature on sex toys.
Yeah, I saw. That was Alex Fox.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it was good, very interesting. But the comments that were put on their social media after they'd aired that segment, I think totally highlight why we need people like you, Topher, in the world. So comments like, I was taken aback at the last topic. I'm no prude, but I wondered, is it appropriate for that time of day? Dermot seems uncomfortable. He's one of the presenters.
Oh, that's what she was worried about. It's not
That's
me,
what she's
guys.
worried about.
It's Dermot. It's not
Poor Dermot earning $250,000 a year.
Yeah,
I bet that morning was really stressful for him once he got driven home in his Rolls Royce.
Another one said, I left my lounge and went into my kitchen.
Do they know
So
they
you
can just turn it
let
off?
the show get ratings anyway. So cool.
Yeah, exactly. You left it
Yeah.
turned on, but you just from a different room.
Yeah,
Not
it
ready
doesn't
to
surprise
actually
me.
watch it.
But it's like when you're watching a horror film from behind a pillow,
Exactly like
She
that.
didn't turn it on.
Exactly.
She was-
She
I
still
bet
wanted
you
to
she did.
hear. She wanted that information. She just didn't want to look at it. She was like, guys, I left the room. So,
Yes,
I
it's
feel like-
okay then.
Like with sex toys, people are so funny about it. But I feel like when you look at the success of like back in the day, like Ann Summers parties, etc., it's because there was a need and a want for it. And there are so many, like, for me in my personal life, like I have so many cis female, like most of my friends, 99% of my friends are cis women. And like I would say back before I really started to talk to them about toys and stuff, I would say 75% of them hadn't had an orgasm through sex. So it's like these things are important, because I mean, so like I know how many women watched This Morning, etc. And like, listen, people are going to put the negative comments and stuff, And I think it was really cool of Alex to go on there and do that. I really respect Alex. But, someone's going to hear that and it's going to change someone's life, because I think that there are lots of people who feel like, oh, pleasure just probably isn't for me. And maybe I just don't orgasm. And I'm like, we probably do. You're just probably not doing it the right way, or your partners may. And again, it goes down to the Britishness. Everyone's scared to communicate.
It's so true.
A lot of that isn't. A lot of that comes from maybe not wanting to upset your partners and stuff. So I do get it. And that's where my affectionate head comes in through work. You try and develop these like sex guides that encourage communication in really gentle ways, emotionally intelligent ways. You got to be so like calculating in how you write this stuff if you want it to be successful.
And you test sex toys as well, don't you?
Yeah. My first like foray into like writing, of course it wasn't in like Vogue, or like it was in like little magazines that used to go out in every sex shop and every gay sex club in London called QX Men. So I used to write sex toy reviews because I think they wanted to fill a page and I was some like desperate twink wanting to get into the magazine. So they were like, cool, let me just give them a page to shut them up. And it did really well. And off the back of that, like people used to reach out to me with sex problems, and that on top of the sex shop work kind of developed this career that now like I'm so grateful for. The reason I can pay my bills with a topic that I care about is because of the underground of the industry. It's all the underground magazines. It's all the people from the street and the work. So I'm really lucky that my work and my career came from that really organic place.
Because there's such a need for your work.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, even more so in the mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at the response. I mean, I saw loads and loads of tweets about this morning and I knew it would happen. And like, I think that was Alex doing it. Like, can you imagine if I'd done it? Can you imagine that would have been, I mean, we know what would have happened. I mean, it would have been horrific. I mean, I would have done it if I don't care. I don't care what people got to say about me. Because Alex approaches sex education in a really gentle, clearly communicated way. It's like the way she communicates is almost not childlike, but it's talking to you, and it's very, she simplifies things for people. And it's really smart because it breaks down the way that products work in a way that is much more palatable. So you're not going like clit and goes up your ass. It's much more gentle language. And she's had huge success with using that tone. But can you imagine if I was on there?
I'd love to see that.
So would I.
That goes right up your gun. Like
it would be amazing. Then we might see Dermot looking a bit uncomfortable.
I'd want to be like Joan Rivers and have to get removed of ITV daytime.
Dragged off.
That would be amazing.
I'd be like, yes. I'd call my dad. My dad would be so proud.
And we would be proud too, wouldn't we, Jess?
Yeah,
we fully support it.
Very.
Yes. You're my people.
Yes, we are definitely. I think the only other question that I had, Topher, is how are you going to know when your work is done, or is this lifelong work?
I think it's lifelong, because I feel like in the queer scene, the gay scene, however people refer to it, like I'm 34, so like to so many people, I'm older now, like, because it's such an ageist scene, which I mean is not a shock. I mean, I'm a Madonna fan. I'm looking forward to getting older and playing with my looks and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to changing how I write as I get older and approaching things in different ways, maybe in more holistic ways. And then when things start to change in my body, like maybe when I get older, maybe if my joints get more painful, and maybe I have to use toys in a different way. And I'm really looking forward to writing about that. But I'm just looking forward to exploring sex, like, like almost like age with me. And let's explore how things change together.
Oh, I hope we can work together forever. See, stalker behaviour.
That is
This
a story, Sarah.
I'll be there.
She's like, always, forever, promise. Like,
Yes.
creepy vibe.
BFFs, that's what we are now.
But that would be amazing to do that to age. I just think, it's just so unbelievably needed. And I just really hope that, like we were talking about, that even more of the mainstream shows, I really hope they work with you, because the way you are about sex and sex education needs to just be so much more out there.
Yeah, we'll see. I have a feeling they won't, but we'll see. I'd always be there, but I probably will be removed from air.
Oh, Topher, thank you so much. It's so good to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I think we're definitely going to need to get Topher on again, Sarah. Absolutely.
I love Topher Taylor.
Is that his new theme tune?
He should have his own theme tune. Absolutely.
Yeah, not one that you're singing.
What?
No, not one that you're singing. No, thanks. You're welcome, Topher, me protecting you from Sarah and her crazy obsession with you.
I think, as my BFF, he would want me to sing it.
Can't just pronounce people your best friends. You keep doing that on this podcast. It's so creepy. I actually want him to come back on, Sarah. Stop scaring everyone.
I can't help it. My love for him is just growing by the second. Thanks for listening to the HIV podcast. If you enjoyed our podcast, please like, rate and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts.
You can now also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the HIV Podcast for behind the scenes insights and video. The HIV Podcast is produced by Thames Valley Positive Support.